Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. So, Carrie Brown.
Hello.
If you could be any kind of garden shrub that you could ever be, what kind of garden shrub would you be?
I'd be a clematis.
I do not know what that is, but I'm assuming it's got leaves and stuff.
I think in America you call it a clematis.
I do not. I call it a shrub, is what I would call it.
Got a green thumb then, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes.
Clematis, as we call them in England, or I think it's clematis in America. I can't.
Oh no,
remember
you're confusing that with a nice drink called clamato, which is a totally different. That's not a shrub at all. It's a gross concoction of clam juice and tomato juice.
Now, clematis are beautiful, and they're vines. They're kind of, so they're not really shrubs, but I cheated.
Oh goodness gracious!
And they're vines, and they grow up things, and you can get a billion different varieties, and they put out the most amazing flowers, kind of whites or pinks or purples, and like some of them. And I kind of collect them. I have 5 clematis, six completely different clematis growing in various corners of my yard. And some of the flowers are the size of dinner plates, and they're like deep purple, frilly, filled with stameny things, and just awesome, like purple yum, just awesome. And so I kind of have a thing for clematis, so that's what I would be.
I didn't catch that. You have a thing for it. For folks who can't see, she was just as animated just now as her voice seemed to indicate. Yes, indeed. All right, what are we talking about today? Aside from non-shrubbery shrubs,
we're talking about booze, mate.
Booze. Is there a okay? So booze is. I understand that's an American nickname, but do they have like other nicknames for alcohol in jolly old England?
Oh yes, lots. Sauce.
Okay.
I'm going on the sauce, mate.
Yeah.
I'm going down the pub, and now you've asked me, I can't think of any more. But yes, there's lots and lots of fun names for booze. Oh, and just to be clear, because sometimes when I say mate, Americans are like, "Really? What? He's your wait? No, really?" And no. Mate in England, when a British person says mate, that's like friend.
Also, it could also mean that they just won a chess game. Just so you know, and let's put full context on there. Okay.
So, just for Americans, don't panic.
Right. Yeah. I'm not even.
When I say mate, it's just a term of friendship that British people say to one another, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. All right, mate. That's what we say. We say, "All right, mate."
Do British people are they also as passive aggressive as Americans? So they'll be like, "Hey, what's up?" But what they're really thinking is, "I hate you." So when you go like, "Hey, good day, mate," but what you're really thinking is, "I want to put a fork in your eye."
So much more passive aggressive.
Okay. Oh, this is good.
So much more passive aggressive.
All right, we're going to create an international incident if we continue down this road, I think.
But the good thing is I can say that because I am one.
Right.
If I was American and saying that, then that might be a different thing altogether.
Right. Yeah.
Stiff upper lip and all that, mate.
That's right. That's the thing. Stiff upper lip. Do your duty as you should.
Yes. We have several thousand books of etiquette.
I have a question about this. Okay, so you grew up in this environment. What the rules of etiquette? I understand if some of them are like practical, but are they just mostly just someone made some stuff up? Like the spoons need to be this far apart, and this is what a salad spoon is, and this is what a lobster fork is, and like all that stuff's just made up, right? Like there's no practical application to it.
No, I think lobster forks and spoons in the right place is kind of practical.
How what? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like I have one cup.
So,
I have one
if
spoon.
you have a 9-course meal and you're like, I don't know which set of cutlery to use, like the way we lay the table, you know which one to use, even if you don't know which one to use. You start from the outside and work in. So first course comes, start at the outside. Oh, I would use these.
Why would I give up my fork though? Like I'm keeping my fork. Like because I know there's another course coming. I'm keeping my fork. Don't you?
No, get a new fork.
Why?
Because
This is what I'm saying. This is why I don't understand the practicality of it. Like
you don't want to put like traces of what you last ate on what you're going to eat.
Clean the fork. Like done. All right, next meal.
No, we have people to clean forks.
No. I mean, just lick the fork. Like get the last remnants off with your mouth, and then eat the next thing.
That is in the book of non-etiquette. Lick your fork. No, you don't lick your fork.
All right, fine. I would do very poorly in the upstairs rooms of Downton Abbey. I probably barely survive in the downstairs rooms of Downton Abbey, is what you're telling me.
But you know what? That would give British people the biggest case of practicing their passive aggressiveness. It would be awesome.
Because no one would say anything to me about
nobody would say anything. They'd all be very polite to you and and oh yes. If only we could have a movie of what was really going on in their minds.
All right, so booze.
I'm teasing British people.
But the thing is, if you're gonna tease a group of people, I guess the Brits are the right ones to tease because they're not gonna get mad about it, or they're not gonna verbalize their anger about it, right? Apparently, according to what you're telling me, right?
There you go. Yeah. If they're mad, they won't say so.
Right. All right. So we're talking about alcohol today, but we're not talking about what we're talking about is cooking with it, and I had to clarify with Carrie when she said, hey, we're talking about cooking with alcohol. What I meant, what she does not mean is how recipes get weirder and weirder the more you drink. No, she means actually using it as an ingredient in what you're cooking. So, so the question becomes, why would anyone use alcohol in any kind of recipe? So what is it about alcohol that allows, that someone would want to use it in a recipe?
And this is something that Brian will just never understand, because delicious.
Yeah. Okay.
Because yum.
Okay, so it's got a certain flavor profile, is what you're saying, right?
Flavor. Yeah,
okay.
It just makes everything taste awesome.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think
it does also have other. So also it does have other properties, such as in ice cream, it raises the freezing point, so ice cream with alcohol stays softer. You'll see you'll see some of the local ice cream recipes online will add vodka, but of course vodka has no taste. Well, the reason the vodka's in there is to try and offset the fact that most low-carb ice creams set like ice.
A brick.
So the vodka, they put that in there in an attempt to have it not set quite like a brick. This is just FYI in case you're wondering why they do that. So there are other uses to alcohol, but the number one reason you would put alcohol in is because it tastes delicious.
Okay, now let's talk about that a little bit, because the different kinds of alcohols, and a lot of times when we're talking about cooking with alcohol for keto folks, that's going to limit the number, the kind of alcohol that we're going to be using anyway. But each individual kind of alcohol that we would be using has a specific and a kind of a distinct flavor profile, right? So you'll hear me talk about flavor profiles a lot because let's face it, we're dealing with food. And when you get beyond the science of how different foods interact with each other, what it boils down to is flavor profile. Do certain things taste good together? Yes or no? And that's how they get combined, right? So different kinds of alcohols have different kinds of flavor profiles by themselves. But they also take on different flavor characteristics depending on what you put them in. So using them in different ways, you can have the same kind of alcohol, but use it in 2 different meals and it's going to make them taste completely different, right?
Right.
All right. So what is the idea that you wanted to get across to folks about using alcohol in your ingredients with your recipes?
So I think and again, this is seeing a lot in, groups and on the internet, and just some LCHF keto people are just like screaming, no alcohol. And so the main thing I wanted to talk about, particularly because it's the holidays, and that if there's a time of year when people who might not normally drink want to enjoy the flavor, even if they're not going to down a glass of something, is the holidays. So and in the cookbook that's coming, I do use alcohol in some of the dishes. So I thought it would be fun to just talk about the fact that that's okay. It's there for the flavor. It's not going to kick you out of ketosis. It's not a bad thing. It's not alcohol is okay to cook with.
Right. So we're not suggesting that you swig a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, right? That's a completely different conversation.
Right. We are talking specifically about cooking with alcohol, not drinking a glass or
right.
drinking a bottle of wine,
right.
or we never talk about drinking beer, or I won't cook with beer.
Right. So the point is,
I think because gluten and
right.
barley and hops and grains and sugar right. and blah. But other things, yes. So I will. Right. Okay.
And the key point there is when you cook with it, you do change aspects of it. And the main thing is, so for example, let's talk about wine. Let's talk about a dry white wine, right? Yes, it is I'll say between 12 and 15% alcohol, roughly, by volume is what it's going to contain. Well, the rest of it is water and other materials from the grapes and from the fermentation process and the whole bit, right? So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about flavor profile. The alcohol has a certain flavor to it, but it's all the other stuff, all the nuance. Like when you see the person swirling the big wine glass and they take a sniff and they talk about oak and lavender and pepperoni or whatever is in the wine, that they're noticing. That's all that remnant stuff that gets in part of the winemaking process. So when you put a cup of that in a large crock pot, for example, it's going to change the flavor profile, but it's going to do it in such a way that it augments the flavor, and you don't have to worry about the alcohol that's there because A, a lot of it gets burned off because of the heat, but B, it's not like you're drinking an entire cup. You're drinking a smaller portion of that because the amount of sauce that you actually get when you're actually eating the meal is diluted, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, when you're cooking with alcohol, even if you're lobbing a cup of it into the pan or, whatever you're doing, by the time it gets to your plate, the actual amount per serving is tiny.
Right. So, and again, the lawyers make sure I want to say there's no lobbing of anything in the kitchen.
Unless you've already drunk half a bottle of wine, then you might be lobbing.
There's plenty of lobbing at that point. At that point, basically everything is lobbing. There's like no placing anything anymore.
And nobody cares about lawyers once it's got to the lobbying stage.
Right. That's true. Yes. Once the lobbying starts, then all that lawyer talk goes away.
It's all fun at that point.
Yes, it's all fun. Yes. Okay, so now another thing that people. Okay, I have to talk about a pet peeve of mine. Right. So yes, Carrie is constantly harassing me about my particular attitude towards food and recipes and all that stuff. And here's the thing, I love to cook. I'm just not. I'm uninterested in it most of the time.
You love to cook with salami and cheese.
Hey.
Your idea of cooking is getting the cheese out of the fridge, putting it on the board, cutting it into
Whoa!
slices.
That's way too many steps.
Salami,
That's way too many
separating it into
steps.
slices, making a sandwich of the two and eating it. That is what cooking is to Brian. And yes, he loves to do that.
That is way too many steps. I'm sorry. I have umbrage. I call umbrage for that. I will grab it. If it's not already pre-sliced, I'll just take a big mouthful of it and put it back in the fridge. I'm not going to go through all that steps of having to like cut stuff. Are you kidding me? I got things to do. So my point is I like to cook. One of the things that frustrates me.
Brian, stop.
What?
You need to understand it tastes better if you cut it.
Oh, see, here's the thing. No. That's all I'm saying. All right.
No, it really does. Anyway, carry on.
What was I saying? I forgot. After I was so rudely interrupted by the British chick. Yeah, I like to cook. So one of the things that frustrates me, and one of the things that I think is a real big problem is, first of all, novices in the kitchen and folks who aren't as comfortable will tend to cook way too high. They will tend to cook their when in a pan, they'll turn it on way too high because they think you got to get heat. Look, you can cook all your stuff in a medium, temperature. You don't have to crank the thing all the way up to high to cook whatever it is you're doing. Now, because that happens a lot of time, stuff gets stuck to the pan. And a lot of that stuff that's stuck to the pan, you think about it, where does the seasoning go in things that you're putting? It's between the actual item that you're cooking and the metal. So when it gets stuck, a lot of that seasoning is the stuff that's stuck to the pan. Now, there's a process known as deglazing, which is you take all of that flavory goodness and you extract it by adding some kind of acidic substance. Usually it's either vinegar or it's alcohol of some kind. So using alcohol to deglaze a pan is not only conserving the flavor, but it adds, again, that flavor profile, and you can make a really delicious kind of sauce out of it too. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right. I'm just stunned.
That?
I'm stunned that you know what a pan is. I'm stunned that you've ever deglazed anything in your life. I'm stunned that you use the word delicious for something that you've cooked. I'm just stunned on so many levels right now. I don't know what to say.
I like to keep the terrorists confused. That way they don't know what's going on. So
I think I might have to talk to Mrs. Williamson about this. I think I might need pictures.
No. There's none of that. None of that going on. Not at all. I'm telling you, I like to cook. I'm bored by food is all.
I'm going to change that.
Yeah, I know. That's what you keep saying.
Yeah.
All right. But so the point is
Mrs. Brian and I are plotting to get you back in the kitchen, making delicious things.
Right. Yes, she would. Yes, she would certainly love that for sure. She would hey, go cook something.
Yeah.
So the point of that is though, okay, so putting it in a crock pot and letting it simmer and stuff, that's one way to get the flavor profile. Another way is to use it to extract the stuff you've already, those tasty bits that have already been utilized in the pan. That golden brown kind of sauce that you can make out of that. Is there anything else that you can do with alcohol when you're cooking with it? Oh, you can also add it to like confections and things like that too. But that's a little bit trickier. Right?
It can be because alcohol is a liquid, and so when you add liquids to sugar or not sugar, to sugar alcohols and to chocolate and stuff like that, that can be problematic. The truffles that are coming in the cookbook are sugar-free, but they do have rum in because it's Christmas and yum. And not a lot, but just enough to make them happy truffles. And And as I say, you can use alcohol as a to raise the freezing temperature of things or lower it, whichever way. It stops things getting hard. So that's another use for it.
Right. And so alcohol doesn't freeze at a regular water temperature, right? So you can stick it in the freezer and it's going to prevent it. And like Carrie was talking about, that's one of the reasons people add vodka to their horribly concocted ice cream, is to kind of combat the fact that it's horribly concocted. It's basically cheating. So so the point is that don't shy away from the fact. Look, you don't have to have a sophisticated, or you don't have to have an unsophisticated palate like me. Like, you can have Carrie's palate, which is like super nuanced and sophisticated and whatever, or, you know, and if you do, don't overlook this as a possible flavor augmenting thing, or a flavor not substitute, but it helps bring out flavors. So if like your whole thing is like you want food to be delicious and stuff, consider alcohol as a way to add. Now, it's a supplemental thing. You're not pouring kegs of it into whatever. You're putting a little bit here and a little bit there to utilize the flavor of it. That's it.
Right. And it is true that low carb, high fat, keto, the number of things we eat is reduced.
Mm-hmm.
So the more things you can do to give you different flavors or options to expand that out again is all good. And you can use alcohol as one of the ways to, you can have chicken 20 different ways just by altering, the things that you cook with it. Alcohol is one of those options for making chicken into something completely different, for example.
Right, but she's not talking about make it into like a ham, because you can't. I don't care what you pour into a chicken, you're not going to make it into a ham. I mean, that's different.
No,
that's alchemy. No. That's alchemy, and we don't support that sort of thing.
I have been accused of recipe wizardry, but even I have not yet figured out how to make a chicken into a pig.
Right, and all the pigs are happy, or maybe they're not. Maybe all the pigs are sad because they don't have
wings.
They don't have wings, right? That's what I was going for. Yes, pigs do not have wings, therefore they do not fly.
Anyway, my point was alcohol can help you to, if you've got into a rut with keto LCHF cooking, you can use alcohol is an option to make things taste different.
It's also an option if you had a rough day at work, but that's a different scenario entirely, right? That's we're not talking about necessarily cooking with it at that point.
Yes, but actually, just personal side note, I can't. I mean, I tried. Right. I didn't drink for 23 years at all, ever, nothing, like zero. And then somebody at work gave me a little tiny bottle of wine because I did something and they gave it to me, and I took it home and I'm like, I wonder what will happen if I drink this. And I did. And so I kind of did an experiment. And for a month I was like having, I don't know, half a glass of wine. I'd come home from work, half a glass of wine. It actually did. I actually started getting depressed.
Yeah.
And so I had to stop again. But that's just me, right? So I just know that I can't. It just, alcohol on a regular basis in that kind of amount, it doesn't work for me. So.
And yet you can cook with it without those effects, right?
Right. Well, because I don't eat,
That's my point.
That kind of food all the time. Right. It's something I'll do occasionally. And the amount of alcohol of course, depending on what it's in, a lot of the actual alcohol that messes with your brain or might mess with your brain is cooked out. Right. So you're not actually got the falling over piece is gone. And the amount you have is tiny. It's not like you're drinking, half a glass or a glass of wine every night.
Right.
So.
And that's precisely my point, right? That's what I'm getting at the whole time, right? Using it as an ingredient is not the same thing as consuming it, straight out of the bottle, that sort of thing. So, and that's the key. And ultimately it comes down to what Carrie's pointing out, which is super important. If you're, the question is not, is this allowed? The question is, do you need it, right? Is it helpful for you, right? And no matter what it is. And if you can't answer yes, then why not err on the side of, don't have it, right? I mean, just as from a healthy perspective, this is not like recipe or kitchen related. This is just, this is just Uncle Brian sharing some wisdom with you is all.
Right. And on Uncle Brian's awesome Facebook group, it's a question that comes up a lot. Is alcohol allowed? Can we have alcohol? I don't want people to be confused and confuse consuming it, a pint of it in a glass versus cooking with a few tablespoons of it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, cook with it.
Right. And that's exactly the point, right? Okay. So that's a good takeaway. So again, if you're looking for more interesting flavor profiles, if you're looking for ways that you can, add a certain je ne sais quoi to your foods, then there you go.
Goodness me, you sounded almost like a French person.
Well,
that was awesome.
7 years of first year French. Heck yeah. I'm going to do it every time. All right. So the parting shot, what do we have for the parting shot, Carrie Brown?
Yum.
Okay. Yum. There you go. All right. Well, then,
alcohol in cooking in a good recipe done well. Yum.
Super yum. Okay. Then in that case, I guess I'll talk to you next week.
See ya.